Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsey. Today I'm excited to share with you my second set of alternative cards using the May 2023 Paper Pumpkin Kit called Exploring in Color. This fun outdoor themed kit creates 9 handmade cards. These are the intended cards that you can make with the kit. There are enough supplies to make 3 of each card. Each month, I take the contents from the Paper Pumpkin kits and make alternative projects. Today, I'm sharing with you 2 simple card ideas that use the full front or back of a card base. These cards cut up the landscape images to give focus to certain areas with simple white borders. Don't miss out on next month's kit. I am so excited about this beautiful welcome themed kit. The box coordinates with the Countryside in Sweet collection from Stampin' Up, and I just can't wait to play around with it. It will include everything you need to make 9 cards, 3 in 3 different designs. Make sure to subscribe by June 10th using the link in the description box below. If you are new to my channel and would like to continue to see all of my Paper Pumpkin alternatives, make sure to subscribe using the link in the bottom right corner. I'm going to create these cards one at a time with you today. This is going to be the first card that I make, and it's using the front of this card base. Yesterday, I shared an alternative that used the back. So if you're interested to see some ideas on how you can use the other side of this card base, you can click on my playlist here in the top right corner. So we're going to begin with a piece that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And we're going to first cut off 5/8 of an inch from the top. Then we are going to cut a 1/2 inch from the right. This is going to give us that center focal point, and now we're going to remove a small strip from the top and the bottom. And that size is 5/8 for both of those. So remove 5/8 of an inch from the top and the bottom. Just like that. We are not going to use this side strip for this card, so you can put that off to the side. Maybe you can add it to the inside of your card if you want. And this first sky strip that we cut off, we are going to use down here at the bottom. So we'll put that off to the side and touch that in a minute. So these 3 pieces, you can see that they all connect. So it's kind of like a little puzzle piece. We are going to adhere them to a piece of basic white cardstock that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And there should be a nice even border all the way around. It's about 1/8 of an inch. And I like to do the top and bottom, and then I can put the middle piece in and get it to be nice and even between those 2. So you're just looking for good spacing around the edge. And then you'll take the centerpiece and add some adhesive. And you're going to evenly space that between the 2. And it's going to be smaller. It's not a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. It's more like maybe a 1/16. Or I guess it's not an 1/8 of an inch because that's what this size here. So this is an 1/8 of an inch, and this is more like a 1/16 of an inch in between. So you get this really fun look to that beautiful landscape. Next, we're going to take that piece and add dimensionals to the back and add it to a card base of thick, basic white cardstock. I like to use the thick cardstock for my card bases, and it just gives a really nice, solid feeling to my cards. So you can see a close-up of that layer. For our next step, let's take the copper clay ink, and we're going to ink up one of the greetings from the kit, and I'm going to stamp it on one of the labels. And you can choose any of the labels, any of the greetings. I decided to use "Life is meant for good friends and great adventures." Next, I'm going to take my strip. This is the 5/8 inch strip that we cut from the top. And I am going to flag one side, and I'm going to do that by trimming right in the center, up maybe 1/4 of an inch, and then go from the corners to the top of that slit. And that's going to give me a beautiful fishtail look. Then I can add this here. It looks like I need to trim off a little bit here on the side. So I could either eyeball that or use my paper trimmer. Maybe about 1/2 inch or so. I'm going to add this with dimensionals to my card base. And if you want to give it a little bit of distressed look, you can just kind of fold it in a couple places. This just kind of gives it a fun look. You can roll up the corners just a little bit so you can see how it's slightly distressed. And then add that to the edge of the inside panel right across your card. Next, I'm going to take, this is about 8 inches of twine, and I'm going to add it with a glue dot to my strip. And I've just got a little adhesive just to hold that in place while I try to add my greeting. So I've got my greeting, and I'm just going to add this directly over with some adhesive. You just place it on that strip over the linen thread, and it just creates this really fun look. So we're not tying the linen thread, we just folded it. So there's a loop here on the left side, and then the tails are hanging off on the right. And our quick and simple card is all done. Let's go ahead and move to card number 2. So for card number 2, I'm using the Canoe landscape card base. I have some ideas for what I'm going to use the front for. So I want to cut this in half, and I'm going to use the back for my card today. I'm going to go ahead and trim it at 4 1/4 inches, so right in half along that fold line, and then save the front piece for, I think, my alternative for tomorrow. So this one, this particular card, you can create with any size. So when I originally made this, I thought it might be nice to have like a small focal point. And then after making the card, I want to try to make that focal point a little larger. So I'm going to cut out a piece that is a little longer that goes right around here. So what I recommend is just finding a section that you like. And I could even do like the left side if I wanted, but I think I'm going to stick to the right side. You don't want to do any closer than 1/4 of an inch. So you want to make sure you always have at least 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of your paper. We are going to trim this down though first, just so that we can have this border. So let's do that first. So let's trim to 5 1/4. And then let's cut off to 4 inches. So we want to trim that down just slightly. So let's start with this set edge here. I'm going to go to, I think 1/4 of an inch I think should be okay. I'm going to start here in the middle, and I think I want to give myself maybe 1/2 inch here at the bottom. So that puts me going all the way down to 4 3/4. Again, I'm going to make it a little different than I have here. And then maybe coming up to, let's go to 1 inch. I think that will make it a little taller, but not too much taller, just right about there. Maybe, yeah, I think that should be okay. All right, so I went from 4 3/4 to 1 inch, so that is 3 3/4 is the total size that I've cut there. And then I'm going to rotate, and I did 1/2 inch at the bottom, so that's where I'm going to start my measurement. And let's go with like a 2 inch. I'm going to start here at 2 inches. So it's not going to be a full 2 inches. Let's see, my original one is 2 1/4. So maybe I should go a little bigger. So we'll go to 2 1/2, because 2 1/4, we have to take a quarter away from this edge here. So we went to 2 1/2, and then we'll go up to that first cut line, which should stop at about 1/4 inch. And you want those two lines to connect so that you can cut this out. All right, so now we're going to come over here, and we're going to 2 1/2, because that's where we stopped this marking. We're going to cut all the way up to that line, which should be about 1/2 inch. So on the paper trimmer, Stampin' Up's paper trimmer, there's a ruler here, and so I'm looking at that measurement as well. And then I'm coming down, so I did 1 inch, right? So that would be 4 1/2 is where I think I should stop. If I go a little bit big, then, oh, I did 4 1/4. That's okay. Because of 1 inch, I forgot that we're at 5 1/4 here, so that's 4 1/4. No problem. And then let's go down to, let's just go to 4 1/2. We'll just make it a little taller. So 4 1/2, come over to 1/4 inch away, so that's 3 3/4. And then I've got to finish cutting that because I made it a little taller. Perfect. So that should come right out. And we've got this focal point now that we're going to add. So you can see here that it's going to be a little bit taller than my original card, which is just fine. So my original card I cut was 2 1/4 inches by just about 3 1/2 inches is the final measurement. And this one is 2 1/4 by 4. Okay. So you can see how that looks right there. So our next step is to take a piece of basic white cardstock, and we're going to cut a piece that is 1/4 inch larger than this piece. So I mentioned that it is 2 1/4, so we're going to go with 2 1/2. So 1/4 inch larger, and then we're going to rotate and go to 4 1/4. And so I'm just showing you how this can really work with any size. Okay, so you can really make this work for any size, and I really like how that larger piece kind of is a better focal point in my opinion. Okay. Okay, so from here we're going to add our focal point to the front of our basic white. There should be a border all the way around. Then we're going to add the background to a card base, and I'm using a card base of thick basic white cardstock again. I want to make sure that I get adhesive in this skinny section here as well. And there should be a nice border around that because we cut it down. All right, so once you have this done, if you would like to add any more elements, you can. So what I decided to do was take one of the envelopes, and we're going to trim off this design here, and we're going to add it to our card. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my paper snips to start trimming right along this edge, and I want it to be right on the edge. I don't want there to be a border. Normally when I do fussy cutting, I will give a little border, but not today. We want it to be nice and smooth, almost seamless to our background from the card base. Okay, so then you can decide if you want it to be on the right side, like that, or if you want it to match up on the left side. For this one, I had it on the left, and because I'm being different today, I'm going to go ahead and match it on the right side. But before I do that, I just need to trim off the back piece. So I'm just going to take my paper snips and do a very skinny section just to cut off that folded part all the way down. And then once you have that, you can trim it right at 4 inches where it meets the other side. We can remove that back. It should look just like that. So we're going to add it just to the bottom here, and then our focal point section will be right on top like that. So I'm just going to add that with some glue. If you wanted to put a dimensional at the top, you could. That's going to give you a 3-dimensional feeling maybe on this side here. Let's see how that looks. So match it with that bottom edge. And then that pops up just a little bit. That's kind of a fun look. I might want to remove that dimensional that's in that bottom corner since I've got it popped up right there. And then you can match it up, or you can have it off just slightly. Either one is totally fine. You just want to make sure you cover up that opening that you cut. And there you go. Okay, so our next step is to stamp our greeting. I wanted to do "Life is meant for adventure." And the way I did this was I'm using the Cheers to Another Adventure. You want to make sure that it's clean because we're only going to ink up the adventure. So make sure that's all clean. Do a couple stamp off to make sure you don't have any, what I like to call ghost images. And then you're just going to ink up, here, can you see this? Ink up the adventure word with the edge of your ink pad. So you're not putting ink on Cheers to Another. If by chance you do get some on there, just rub your finger or something wet. Let me get a baby wipe. All right, so I got a little bit on there. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe or like a wet towel or something. Just kind of clean it up. Okay, so when you add this, you want to make sure you give enough room for the text on top. So it should be just a little lower than center. So we have adventure. And then "Life is meant for" comes from this one. This is the one we used. It says "Life is meant for good friendship and great adventures." And so we're going to clean this one as well. We use this one on the other card. Make sure it's nice and clean. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to ink up "Life is meant for." And then it just goes right on top of adventure. Okay. So fun to mix and match those greetings. So I thought it might be nice to add another little touch of color. So I have a Mossy Meadow piece of cardstock. This is 1 3/4 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to just cut a slit here. So it's just about 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch slit. And then you go from corner to the top of that slit to create a banner shape. And then I'm going to add this behind my greeting with a little adhesive. I like to use my grid paper to make sure everything is nice and centered. I'm going to give it a little bit of space at the top, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to take 12 inches of twine or linen thread, and I am going to wrap it around and tie a bow on one side. It doesn't really matter which side. Then add some dimensionals. Make sure to add a couple over the linen thread to hold it in place. And we'll pop this onto the top of the focal point. Just line it up with the top of the colored piece. Okay. And your card is all done. I love how easy it is to try different sizes with a technique like this. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create these 2 cards using the front or back of one of the card bases from the May 2023 Paper Pumpkin Kit. If you are interested in getting written instructions or seeing close-up images, you can visit my blog, creativechelsey.com. If you would like to receive your own Paper Pumpkin Kit, please visit the link in the description below to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.